Speaking Human.
Today on Speaking Human, we hum with excitement as we share the 10 brands that captured our eyes, brains, hearts, tongues, and screens in 2018.
Speaking Human.
Welcome to Speaking Human, where we simplify the world of marketing for humans. I'm Shad Conley, and with me is my co-host, Patrick Jebber.
Welcome to the podcast, Shad.
Thanks for welcoming me for a change.
I always like to be very welcoming when I'm talking to my co-host on this podcast that is 111 episodes old today.
I've been waiting over 100 episodes for you to welcome me. I felt so unwelcome all this time.
I feel so bad now. I need to welcome you more. I need to make you feel more welcomed in this relationship that we have here with Speaking Human.
Now I'm really going to let loose. So Patrick, the end of the year, it's here. It's happening. 2018, almost gone with the wind. And to that end, Patrick, I have a little game for you to play right now.
Oh, I love games.
I know you do. I know you like brands. I know you like YouTube. I found this recent study from Brand Boost that determined the brands in 2018 with the most YouTube subscribers across 5 major industries: media, tech, auto, food and beverage, and fashion. So let's see if you can figure out who they are. So in the category of media, what brand do you think has the most YouTube subscribers?
Is this multiple choice? No.
I just thought you would guess off the top of your head.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I would have guessed that's not it. Will that be helpful?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
I would have guessed Disney. It is not Disney.
Oh, okay. Marvel is owned by Disney. I was going to say Marvel.
Yeah, that'd be a good guess. They probably have their own YouTube channel too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to necessarily be the brand that owns the brand that owns the brand.
Yeah, they're still a brand within themselves, you know?
Yeah, well then maybe I'll take that guess, Marvel.
It is not Marvel. It's actually Warner Brothers. Just about 6.5 million subscribers. So that's just a warm-up to get us started. It gives you an idea of what we're looking for here. So the next category is tech. What tech brand do you think has the most YouTube subscribers?
Is this limited to tech manufacturers or in Gadget they cover tech?
More like tech companies who produce tech.
But just take a shot in the dark and say Apple.
Ah, you got that one. It is Apple.
Okay.
Apple's got 8 million subscribers, and they beat out, I think, last year's winner, who was PlayStation.
I could see that. PlayStation being a front runner.
Yeah. So you got one. So how about the category of auto? Who do you think leads it in auto for YouTube subscribers?
So let's say maybe GM?
Actually, Ford. Ford has
Okay.
1.9 million subscribers. All the other automakers are under 1 million.
Wow.
Food and beverage. This is a tough one. Very active in online marketing.
Okay.
So in food and beverage, any guesses there?
Food and beverage, I would say Oreo.
Ah, it's a good guess. It's actually Red Bull.
Red Bull. Okay, that makes sense.
Red Bull.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense because Red Bull does a lot of the GoPro / big extreme sports stuff.
Yep, big one. They have 8 million subscribers. And so the final category is fashion. Very popular brand who makes clothing items. See if you know who it is. Fashion.
I'm trying to think of fashion brands. Maybe somebody like H&M.
It's a good guess. It's actually Nike.
Oh, Nike.
Nike.
Okay.
Yeah, who I wouldn't have thought of with fashion. Surprisingly, Nike, only 880,000 YouTube subscribers. I thought that would be a lot higher.
Yeah.
So just an interesting list of brands when you're looking at this small section of something, which is YouTube. And the year as a whole, what we're going to be talking about today is brands throughout the year. And this is a good sampling when you see some of those big names of maybe some brands you'll hear later, but just with some of the brands who are leading in that particular space there.
That's a great quiz. One that I clearly need to brush up on my YouTube subscriber best of the best out there.
That's a tough one. Well, Patrick, let's move on to our next brand game. Are you ready for it?
I am. Let's do it.
Fill in the blanks. 2018 was a year where brands were What? What would you say? How would you complete that sentence?
I think that 2018, if I was going to fill in the blank there, I would say it's the year where brands were trying something new. I know this isn't new because brands are constantly trying to be new and innovative and inventive and different. But I think about the effort from IHOP, for example, which we covered on the Buzz this year, caused a stirring of the public basically asking, what's going on? I don't understand. Are they really changing their name to IHOB, the International House of Burgers? People were just really confused, but it also got people talking to spark some renewed interest. Or, we covered the Denver International Airport and them plugging this idea of the weird things that happen at the Denver airport. That idea of trying new things to get people talking about those brands, which is more and more difficult these days.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny, we were on pretty much the same page with this. I used a different term. I said 2018 was a year where brands were frisky, is what the term I used.
I like that word.
Because I just thought they were more playful. I don't know. I felt like there's no longer this rigid template with, you have to do these things with your marketing. You have to be on these social channels and do YouTube. And I feel like there's more of a freedom has happened where brands are like, you don't have to do any of this. Or you can do all of this, or you can do just these things, you know what I mean? It's like find your own thing and make it work for you. And that's why we're seeing things like you mentioned, or things like the Casper Dreamery, or those Bud Light fridges in Cleveland we saw, or the SpaceX updates through social. I think there's just more room now for brands to do their own marketing thing. And we saw a lot more of that this year, and I think it's beneficial to brand and consumer alike.
Yeah, to see the amount of new and interesting ways that brands are trying to stand out in this very cluttered space of getting your attention, because there's so many things vying for your attention today. Not just advertising, but all over the place. Social media has made that very, very difficult to kind of break through because there's so much. And when you pluck them out like we have on the Buzz within Speaking Human's site, you get to see these very unique approaches from brands that sometimes you don't always get to see,
Yeah, we should mention, because we're going to reference it a billion times on this episode, that the Buzz is an area on speakinghuman.com where we post about what brands are doing, like cool and innovative and interesting marketing efforts that they're putting out there. And that's our space to just post updates about that stuff. And we do that every week. And this episode is almost focused on just looking back at a lot of that stuff and what was the standout things, what stuck out to us in that area. And shortly here, we're going to get to our favorite stuff that we found within the Buzz category there, what we thought was the buzziest. But before we get there, Patrick, one more question. On a personal basis, which brand or brands won the year for you? Who's the winner for you?
For me personally, this is a combo win. Tesla, SpaceX, and Elon Musk. Elon Musk being the personal brand, but Tesla and SpaceX being the companies that he runs. Just looking at Elon Musk as a person, this is a dude that they say he works in an obscene amount of hours, so he actually might be a machine. He doesn't stop trying to innovate and push humanity forward, which I personally appreciate. Mostly, he's very positive in terms of a brand. People think of him and they think of an innovator and a person who is a good leader and someone who's driving forward progress, which is what you want in a person like that who's leading Tesla and SpaceX. That's why that brand as a whole, all three of them, won the year for me.
Always interesting what they're doing, especially, anytime you hear something out of SpaceX, just the whole mission there, what they're trying to do. Every word out of Elon Musk's mouth, kind of interesting, captures your curiosity. So understandable there. I thought of the usual suspects for me. Like, I thought about stuff that's kind of impactful on my personal life. Like, what are the brands I use all the time that are always kind of in my face? And the usual suspects for me are Amazon, ordering from there constantly, Netflix, Disney. Probably 90% of the movies I've seen in theaters in the past 2 years are somehow tied to Disney because they own everything.
Yeah.
But what I went with was actually Sonos, which was a brand we've covered on the Buzz this year. It's a rising brand. And they've just popped on my radar within the past year, but I bought a couple of their products. I really like them. I started following them more closely. I think more people know about this brand as they've risen up. I like what they do. I like how they're using sound quality and integration with Alexa and Apple Music and stuff. They're trying to bring all this stuff together in speakers. So that's a brand that I've really become a fan of in the past year. So that was my pick here, really personal ground level type of thing.
Yeah, I like all those Sonos, a very high-end audio brand too. Very cool stuff happening from them. And I know, the usual suspects, we always say this, like the big brands are really interesting. I mean, they have the biggest marketing and advertising budgets, so it's really hard to deny the fact that they get seen by a majority of humans. And so it's very difficult for us sometimes because we want to cover a lot of different types of brands and we want to cover a lot of different types of marketing efforts. And sometimes we have to force ourselves to be honest, like there's other stuff out there, right? And I myself chose Tesla, SpaceX, and Elon Musk. They're very big, but they all have very interesting ways in which they solve the problem, which is how do we get seen? How do we get noticed? How do we get the people in general talking about us?
Yeah. And you make a good point. It's hard, especially when you do like a podcast and you cover stuff, on the website all the time. It is. I mean, Apple, Google, Amazon, these companies are always doing stuff. A lot of it is interesting, but we almost, as people who kind of cover this stuff, that's the thing we say to ourselves. We're like, how much can we really talk about those? We can't just talk about them all the time, when there's this whole wide world of marketing and brands out there too. So that's why I think we tend to even push back on that a little bit, even though they're always in the spotlight, right?
Yeah. Again, it's just like anything else, in life. It's easy to take the easy way out, which is, in our case, when we're looking at marketing efforts from big brands.
What you say makes sense, and it's true. It is definitely true.
Yeah. So in a minute, though, we'll talk about our picks for the brands that caught the best buzz for their innovative efforts over the past 12 months. But first, let's just get a little tiny quick word from our glorious sponsor.
Today's sponsor is Farmers Insurance. Insurance can be confusing, overwhelming, and time-consuming. At Hire Insurance Agency, we remove the guesswork and hassle, helping you protect what matters most. We offer a wide range of auto, home, business, and life insurance policies to help you meet your specific needs. Call 844-543-3463 or visit hireinsurance.com. That's HYRE insurance.com for more information.
Hey everybody, Game Show Bob here with today's Advertising Trivia Challenge. Speaking Human Trivia is the name and advertising trivia is the game. So if you consider yourself to be the sultan of slogans, here's your chance to test your knowledge. Last week's question was, which product had the famous slogan, Snap, Crackle, Pop? The choices were A. Phantom Fireworks, B. Kellogg's Rice Krispies, C. American Chiropractic Association, D. Nerds. And the answer is Kellogg's Rice Krispies. Fun fact, the words Snap, Crackle, Pop made its very first appearance in a Rice Krispies ad all the way back in 1929. It did not appear on the box until 1932. It wasn't until 1933 when American artist Vernon Grant created the very first character, Snap, who was a tiny little gnome fellow wearing a baker's hat and carrying a large spoon. And finally, in 1941, two other little gnomey bakers were added, forming the now famous breakfast mascot trio of Snap, Crackle, and Pop. Even though they have been around for more than 80 years, these little dudes are still going strong. And that's it for today's Snap, Crackle, Pop mouthful of Speaking Human Trivia. This week's question is, which company used the slogan, "It gives you wings"? The choices are A. Continental Airlines, B. Buffalo Wild Wings, C. Red Bull, D. Goodyear Tires. Think you know the answer? Visit speakinghuman.com/trivia to find out if you are truly a trivia master.
This girl that was from a show, she came up to me and she was like, "Are you wearing sneakers to an award show?" And I was like, yep, that's right. And then, I told her, like, I'm not expecting you to wear a tutu and a bow in your hair. Like, you wear whatever you feel comfortable with.
Stereotypical, right?
Yeah, it's what society tells us to do. But society tells girls to have long hair and boys to have short. But I shaved all my hair off and proved them wrong. So it's not illegal to wear Converse to an award show. You can't tell me how to be a girl.
That was a clip from the Converse video, Millie Tells a Story, released this past July. That spot, featuring Stranger Things actress Millie Bobby Brown, was part of the brand's All the Stories Are True marketing campaign. Will Converse make either of our lists of buzziest brands of the year for their work on that campaign? You're about to find out. So Patrick, here we are. There's already so much and there's so much more. We're going to talk about our picks for buzziest brands of the year. What does that mean exactly? Nobody really knows. Other than one thing. Our basis for this was brands we covered in the Buzz section, where we published the latest stories about interesting things happening in the world of marketing, advertising, branding, and pop culture. Over the course of 2018, over 100 different brands were featured in the Buzz. So we had a lot to choose from. So Patrick, how did you pick? Which brands were your buzziest of the year?
Some of my picks were based on overall exposure, but a couple of them really, it was based on the appreciation for taking a different approach to their marketing. I mentioned this at the beginning, being new and innovative. That to me is something that I think is always near and dear to my heart. When I see a brand taking a chance, when I see a brand doing something just a little different, or trying something a little different, even for that brand. It might not be something different entirely, but something that brand has never done before. To me, that's a risk, obviously, for any person, for any brand. And I think that when done the right way, can really positively impact that brand.
Yeah, I agree. Some of it's kind of intuition. When I look back on this year, what sticks out in my mind? What do I remember? And there can be a few different reasons for that. Some of that's just how creative it was. Some of it's how much people talked about it. I also tried to balance some of the bigger things with the smaller brands, just because it's nice to give attention to some of the brands that don't necessarily get that spotlight that we talked about earlier, that the Googles and the Apples always get. It's nice to call attention to some of the smaller brands out there that are doing great work. So on that note, we each picked 5 buzziest brands, and I'm really interested to see if we have some overlap. I think we got to, but you never know. So do you want to go first with your first buzz brand of the year?
Yeah, so my first buzz brand of the year is Fruit of the Loom. I know this is a weird choice, but this goes back to what you were saying. It's not a brand that you would typically think of as the buzziest brands of the year. But I did like the one effort we covered on the Buzz this year was where they launched the cleverly inconspicuous ad campaign that when they put it in the city, millions of people didn't even notice. There were some that did. And that's what they caught on video, were the people who realized that it was an ad campaign and that there were some secret hidden treasures there, and some of the people who didn't notice that just walked right on by. And I thought it was just a really cool effort on their part, and something that was a little different that they hadn't done before.
Yeah, that's a great effort and a great pick. A brand doing something creative on that medium scale that really calls attention to itself and the campaign it was launching.
Yeah. Do you wear Fruit of the Loom, Shad?
I think sometimes I wear their t-shirts.
Have you seen that new product category that they have called Everlight?
I've seen it, never actually tried it though. Can you recommend it?
I recommend it highly. The most comfortable thing I've ever had.
Very positive recommendation from our own Patrick Jever. Go out and get one, people.
Anyway, what's your first brand on your list?
My first buzz brand is one you already mentioned a little bit, which is the Denver Airport. As you know, your brand is not necessarily what you want it to be. It's what people say about it, right? So for years, people have speculated about the strange history of the Denver Airport, saying that the Freemasons control it, that the Blue Mustang sculpture is cursed, that there are secret bunkers under the facility with lizard people in them. Crazy things I never knew, but people actually say this and believe this. Well, the airport this year decided to own that in their marketing, putting up signs, promoting these myths, starting a website using the hashtag #DenFiles. It was all fun and cool and unexpected, and people went through the airport, loved it. Posting about it on social and talking about it, it just got the conversation going. And it's just one of those things you see that you're like, yes, there's a brand who just gets it. They're just going with what's already happening, taking what's already out there and just owning it in a way that really works and draws attention to it.
I like that a lot. And I mentioned that in the intro there at the beginning of the podcast for that very reason. It's something that's a little different. And the fact that they recognized that there was really no escaping it, right? There was no escaping how people talked about that brand.
The more you deny it, the more people believe it.
Yeah. The fact that they embraced that then, they realized that there was some value in embracing it is awesome. Right? I mean, it's awesome because then you get to have fun with it, give it a giant brand hug, and embrace it.
Yeah, and it's got people like us talking about the Denver airport.
Yeah. Well, next on my list, I'll just get it out of the way since I've already talked about it a ton, SpaceX. And really for all the reasons that I've already mentioned, the private passenger to the moon, the spaceman that they launched into space within the Tesla Roadster, even in combination with Tesla, putting the SpaceX rockets onto the Tesla cars. Cool and inventive ways to get people to talk about the brand.
They get the idea that if your brand is about sending people to space, you don't have to work too hard and you can have a lot of fun with that.
It's literally a space company, right? It's like if NASA could have had fun with their brand, what would they have done? And I think that that's what SpaceX is doing.
Yeah, people are just excited about the idea of space, and the idea of us just going to space like you're jumping on a bus is pretty amazing and a lot of fun to think about. Mm-hmm. So the next one on my list is a big one that I know you're familiar with. And maybe big isn't even the word. It's bigger than the universe. Okay. And that one is Fortnite.
Oh,
you know Fortnite, right, Patrick?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, made it onto my list, so I want to hear what you...
Is it also on your list?
Oh, yeah, of course. It has to be.
Yeah. And the reason is, even if you don't play video games, you've probably heard of Fortnite. It's become a sensation. Let me throw out some quick stats, and these aren't even completely up to date. As of July 1st, $1 billion in total U.S. revenue, $318 million in revenue in just May 2018 alone, over $300 million in revenue from iOS in 200 days. Over 125 million people had played the game as of early June, and $8 billion is now the value of the game's maker, Epic Games, because of this title. If we're talking about things that are buzzing, I mean, this is deafening. You just couldn't get away from this in 2018. It's just one of the biggest brands of the year all around.
Yeah, you hit on all the numbers. You can't get away from the brand in general. It has captured the imagination of children. If you can do that to the extent that they have, there's no way you can escape it, right? Because you've got children who have parents, and the parents, what are we buying for this game? Why are we buying the merchandise, the t-shirts, the action figure dolls, the whatever? So you can't escape it. And here's the thing. This is a free game. Free. It's a free game. And yet, kids are constantly forking over more money for in-game currency, their outfits and their skins and their dance moves, because, that's a thing.
I didn't.
And this game is free. And yet, how amazing of an accomplishment for something that starts off as free. It's free. You're not making money on the purchase and sale of the game. And then you're making $1 billion on a game that was free. It's just so mind-boggling. And then I actually was reading this article earlier this week where Epic Games, they can't justify the expense of putting even skeleton crews on these other, even slightly successful games because they're making so much money on Fortnite that they're pulling their resources to put them on that game.
It's crazy.
It is. Great pick.
It goes to show, though, the power of what free can do. Even, with Facebook. and what Facebook became by being free.
Yeah.
How big you can actually become when there's this perception you're getting something for free, even if it involves some sort of payment later on or there's some sort of money-making aspect later on. People just like to see that. You just want that word free, attached to it.
It's a good point. It's not really strange because it's human nature, right? You're trying to get a good value for the money that you're spending. So when you see something that says free, you're like, this is a good value. I'm not paying for something. Even though you know you're going to be paying for something down the line, then it makes it a little bit easier pill to swallow when they say, well, it's going to be 99 cents for this and $1 for that. And suddenly, $5,000 later, you're like, did I pay $5,000 for that video game? Because that was free.
Seems like a lot.
That seems like a lot of money. That's more money than it cost me to buy the system to play it on.
Maybe that was a bad choice.
Maybe that was a bad life choice. I don't know. So anyway, good pick though. Yeah.
Obviously, if it's a pick on both our list, it's buzzworthy.
Definitely buzzworthy.
Right.
So what's next on your list?
So next on my list, we'll go a little smaller. We heard the clip earlier, and it's Converse. Converse was one I really like what the brand is doing, reaching a younger generation with a product that is notable for its timelessness. The shoes themselves haven't really changed much, and they're even just playing the supporting role in this new campaign. It's not really about what they look like or what they do. It's just about these stories related to the shoes, and the people who are wearing them, which opens the door nicely to both future and present use. There's a lot of different ways you can use this campaign and reflect the different people wearing it. As we wrote on the Buzz when covering this campaign, what we really like about this campaign is the built-in flexibility to tell these stories in a variety of ways, from macro to micro, past and present. And you wrote that, Patrick, and I think that sums it up perfectly what I really like about this campaign, but I think they played it well. And Converse is a brand I really like. It's nice to see them out there doing a cool, kind of simple marketing effort that works.
Yeah, it's funny. I originally had that on my list, and then I swapped it out for something else, but I do like that effort a lot. To me, it's a very simple yet sophisticated concept, right? That this brand has a lot of history and longevity to it, and there's probably a lot of stories to tell of the people who have worn Converse over the years that it's existed. And when you think about it more, you appreciate it more.
Yeah, it was a good one. It's kind of like if this brand could talk a little bit and it speaks to the people who actually wear it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In a way, it's like swapping stories.
Yeah. So it was a great pick. Thank you for picking that.
You're welcome.
Mine last two are pretty big brands, so I'll go with the first one on the list, which is Amazon. Amazon, we've covered them a slew. I like that word, a slew of times on Speaking Human. I picked it for a variety of reasons. One of which I mentioned overall exposure of that brand, and people are talking about it a lot, but also doing things that are new and trying something a little different than they have done in the past. For example, their holiday toy catalog, trying to fill in some of the gaps from the loss of Toys R Us. Maybe that's why Toys R Us is gone, because they've been buying their toys through Amazon. But the fact that they recognize that the toy catalog buyer is still there, they want to see something physically in print, I thought was genius. Then you got all the different things that they do throughout the year, the minimum purchase, eliminating that for free shipping, which I think is them being competitive in the market, which is great. The Smiling Boxes ad, trying to give some personality to their brand. Then even going as far as Amazon Prime and their original programming, like Homecoming with Julia Roberts, that was a podcast, and now they, made it into a series. Just constantly innovative. Amazon is just a shoe-in for that.
Yeah, they're not, as big as they become and as ingrained as they become. They're not resting on it. They're still pushing the needle. I think about that catalog effort, and it's just another way they're getting us. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a bad way or like a negative way, but because they're just so good at giving you what you want in so many ways, and they just keep pushing forward, working to earn your love over and over and over again. And you got to give them credit for it. They're going after it nonstop.
Which every brand should do, right? But, even big brands, they could just take it as, we've got the market cornered. we're just going to keep doing things status quo, or like Amazon, they just keep trying new things and new ways to get more of your dollars, I guess is the best way to put that.
But in a way that makes you happy, like a smiling box.
Yeah, as I throw that smiling box in the garbage. And I feel bad about it because, oh my God, that smiling box was alive? All this time I've been like ripping them apart.
And it's screaming, "You're killing me."
Why are you doing this to me?
So my next one, also a big brand that we've mentioned a million times that keeps pushing forward. Wouldn't be surprised if it's also the remaining one on your list, and that is Nike.
Yes.
It is the remaining one on your list?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. Nike we know Nike from their consistently great marketing for decades. Just keep doing it and doing it, almost like they have it down to a science. But this year, particularly notable because they really captured the conversation with the Kaepernick ad. Sort of the definition of buzz, where they just signed Colin Kaepernick, made this ad, and had people talking for months. Well, people are even still talking about it. And a lot of people say, well, it wasn't really a bold move. It was a business move. They knew what they were doing. They're making money off of it. To that, I would kind of counter, no other brand did this.
Yeah.
They're the brand that did this. Every other brand had the opportunity to jump in there and do this. They didn't. Maybe they didn't have the clout of Nike, but Nike's still the one who came in and did it. Nike set it up and delivered it in perfect Nike fashion. And it became a thing. It became a talking point. It got all this conversation about Nike. It's why we're talking about Nike right now as the buzziest of the year. And, pair that with just the other normal great work they did throughout the year. Like the Serena ad is the one that stands out to me in particular as just a great example of a classic Nike ad. They just know this formula and how to deliver it. And every time it hits and tugs at your heart and inspires you a little bit. They're really good at marketing.
I couldn't agree more. And we're talking about brands that don't disappoint, and Nike is one of them. Even the controversy, surrounding the Colin Kaepernick ad, and you can look at it positive or negative, but in the end, the brand is really great at inspiring people, which is something you want everyone to think of when they think of your brand.
Undoubtedly. And Nike has that. And they've had it for a long time. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my last one is another phenomenon. If you ever look back, thinking ahead, if it's 50 years and we're looking back on 2018, what are the things that are going to be like footnotes that you're still going to have to be talking about? And this is definitely one. It's a piece of media that became a phenomenon, a brand that rose into something much bigger than expected. And that was Black Panther. Here's what we wrote on The Buzz back in February. Of all the 18 Marvel movies, Black Panther is the only one with a black person in the title role. That is significant. What's more significant is that nearly every major role in Black Panther is played by a black actor. Something not only rare for a superhero movie, but rare for any big studio release. So that made big news. That alone got people talking. But what was even bigger was the success of this movie. Over $700 million at the US box office, which is good for number 3 on the all-time gross list, behind only Avatar and The Force Awakens. Those are some big names. $1.3 billion worldwide, the highest grossing Marvel movie of all time. And there's even some Oscar talk about this movie. The definition of buzz. And we're talking about a movie, you may say, movie, is that a brand? I think in this case it is. A movie that's elevated to a higher status. Also, when you're talking about any sort of Marvel property, it's a brand. But this one went to a higher level. It just pervaded the culture for months and months and months, and just became one of those things that became bigger than a movie.
Yeah, that's for sure one that became bigger than a movie. And when you've got people that are doing the salute, I guess is what you would call that.
The Wakanda salute?
The Wakanda salute, yeah. You've hit some success.
Huge success. And everybody knew that movie was going to be big to some extent, as most superhero movies are. I think the level of success it actually reached, though, is crazy, and that was the unexpected part.
It's the unexpected successes, too, that I think are the most fascinating to watch, and the ones that you can probably appreciate the most. You go,
Yeah.
wow. Like lightning in a bottle, we've talked about several times in the past, you know?
Yeah, there's more appreciation for it, and you can sit back and watch it and be like, ooh, that's a pretty cool thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, now that's a great snapshot of 2018 and all the buzzing that was happening.
Yeah, a lot of buzz. Not a lot of bees, but there was a lot of buzz.
So yeah, go get that sweet buzz for yourself. Maybe even make your own list.
Yeah, make your list. Check it twice.
And on that note, let's get our final nugget of human wisdom.
So for our final nugget of human wisdom today, I'm basically going to talk a little bit about trending. So Brand Finance, a brand consultancy firm, released their ranking of the most valuable brands in the world in 2018. The firm looks at a marketing investment, stakeholder investment, business performance, and it measures up how each brand contributes to the company. And here's the thing. Amazon has officially replaced Google as the most valuable brand in the world, according to Brand Finance. Microsoft took the place of Apple. You're starting to see a trend where there's some bouncing back and forth. There's some ups and downs between different brands as the most valuable. And I think every brand has some ups and downs, can make some good decisions and bad decisions. As a year-end takeaway, I would say this: you always strive to be better. As a brand, as a person, as a human being, and ultimately, if you make more good decisions than you do bad decisions, because we're all human and we make bad decisions, ultimately, you'll see success. You'll see success in your marketing, in your advertising, in efforts in your personal life, and that's what matters. Keep moving forward and keep trying to be better.
I think that's a good takeaway for this year, or any year, and any day, in fact. Wake up every day, look in the mirror, say, I'm going to be Amazon today. I'm going to take down Google today.
Today, I will be the Google version of myself.
I'm going to be the next Apple of human beings. Good stuff. Way to, connect the human and the brand, bringing it together to end the episode and to end the year. Couldn't be more perfect.
Well, it could be more perfect. That's why I'm always striving for better, Shad.
Okay. Who knows what'll happen in 2019? Stick around to find out.
Yeah. So that's it for today's episode and the last episode of the year. You can find current and past episodes of the podcast on speakinghuman.com. While you're there, start the new year off right by signing up for our weekly emails and letting Speaking Human whisper sweet nothings into your inbox every Friday. That's right. It does whisper sweet nothings into your inbox.
That sounds nice. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
Tweet us your pick for the buzziest brand of 2018 using the hashtag 2018BrandBuzz. You can find us at speaking_human on Twitter. That's at speaking_human on Twitter. We'll be back in 2019 with another episode of Speaking Human. Catch you then, humans.
Speaking human.